Hi and welcome to Dr. Mix. On this video I'm going to show you the 5 top mixing mistakes we see people make time and time again. And I will show you how to address those mistakes so that you can make your mix sound better straight away. Coming up. Mix overloading. Recording too loud into your DAW is a bad habit. Whether you're using microphones or synths or DI, you should always leave generous amounts of headroom. But maxing out your channels is particularly bad for mixes. It blows up your master bus, it makes your outboard and plugins fight for their lives, it flattens the mix into a miserable, hopeless mess. What to do to sort out the situation? Gain staging. Turn every clip gain in your mix session down until the sum of all channels hits the master bus at around minus 12 dBs. That's a good starting point for mixing. Some DAWs like Cubase allow you to set the input gain for each channel, which is a much better way of doing gain staging. With other DAWs, you may need to insert a plugin, whatever plugin, that has a volume control as first in your plugin chain. Messy low end. Too many people don't pay attention to what's happening in the low end of their mix. The problem is that along with the kick and the bass, every other channel is bringing useless low end information to that party. Things like the stomping of the vocalist, the air conditioning, the traffic rumble in the background, but also the very bottom end of the piano, the guitars, the synthesizers, vocals, backing vocals, etc. It all adds up, and before you know, your kick and bass are drowning in an ocean of mud. What's the solution? Filtering. Apply a high-pass filter to all the channels that are not relevant to the low end. You can use any stock equalizer to do that. You don't need anything fancy. A good starting point is 80 to 100 Hz, but you can push it even a bit higher if you want, depending on the instruments, of course. Just don't push it too far, or you might start affecting the low mids as well. You can choose a steeper curve if you want to be more surgical. This will get rid of most of the mud in your mix. Overcompression. We see this happen all the time. Some people use ridiculous amounts of compression everywhere in the mix with very hard settings for no reason whatsoever. And as a result, the track ends up being flat. No dynamics, no movement, no life. If you're guilty of that, then here's your solution. Turn your compression down. Compressors tend to sound better when they don't work too hard. 2 or 3 dBs of gain reduction is a reasonable starting point for most applications. If you want to reduce more, then you might want to consider using multiple layers of compression. For example, you can compress 2 dBs on the channel itself, 2 dBs on the submix, and 2 dBs on the master bus, instead of using one compressor to reduce 6 dBs in one go. Of course, with parallel compression, it's a different story, and also you may need to use more drastic settings, especially on bass, vocals, and overheads. But in general, when it comes to compression, less is more. In other words, just kiss that needle. I expand a bit on these techniques in a PDF document that I've put together for you. It's called Top 10 Mixing Techniques, and you can download it for free here in the link or here in the link. Effects for no reason. If I only had a dime for each time I heard a demo mix overwhelmed by reverb. It's the first effects vocalists want, it's a quick way to make anything sound important, and it can make a huge mess out of your mix. What's the solution? Think before adding effects. Be intentional about your effects. A mix is like a painting. So if you want to portray the music as being performed on a big stage, then you might want to use some longer concert hall or arena type reverbs on vocals and snare, for example. But if you're working on an acoustic feel-good song, then you might want to simulate a club with a shorter room type reverbs. If it's an intimate ballad, then you might want to not use reverbs at all, or maybe just use some early reflection to give that sensation of a small, confined space. Wrong balance. Vocals are too quiet or they are too loud. I cannot hear the bass, I cannot hear the guitars. It's only drums, or I cannot hear the drums at all. That's a problem. What's the solution? Copy the balance of an existing track. Of course, it needs to be same genre, same style, similar vibe, but I'm sure you know perfectly well what artists you get inspiration from. So just analyze one of those tracks, compare them to your mix side by side, and copy the balance. Is the bass louder or quieter than the drums? Are the vocals louder or quieter than the guitars? Go through it instrument by instrument and use it as a blueprint for your mix. Look, these tips are the results of years of trial and error, and believe me, when I started, I used to make the exact same mistakes. So, by using these tips, I'm sure you can shortcut your learning curve and get to the point of successful mixing a lot quicker. If you found this video useful, please help me grow this channel by subscribing right here, and you can watch more of my tips right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.